Sajo is the personification of being a simp. Since he met the love of his life, Eika, he has spent years begging her every day to be his girlfriend. However, the answer he always gets is a no. But things are about to change. As usual, Sajo is trying to get a date while his classmates are playing soccer. The ball flies right towards Sajo's face, but instead of hitting him, something more interesting happens. It's as if time stops, and even the world pauses. Everything returns to normal, but something has changed in Sajo. From that moment on, he stops being in love with Eika. He enters the classroom, and she expects him to talk to her, but he simply walks past her without even looking at her. Even the teacher comments on how strange it is that he's not bothering Eika that day. After the class ends, Sajo walks down the hallway. Eika tells him not to bother her, but to her surprise, he says he's just going to the bathroom.
Emotional damage!
Everyone in the classroom is confused because it was a habit for Sajo to always pass by Eika. His friends ask him if he has reached the point where he doesn't like her anymore, and Sajo's answer is somewhat confusing. He says he no longer feels the same way about her, as if his love has somehow cooled. Despite that, he still admires her. Things get even stranger because now Eika is the one who wants to start a conversation. After doing so, she regrets it, but everyone in the classroom notices, and now they think she likes Sajo too. Apparently, Sajo's indifferent attitude works for him because a girl named Renee suddenly joins him during lunch. Sajo asks her why she's there, and she simply says she's interested in him before leaving. However, she returns shortly afterward, waiting for Sajo when he comes back to his classroom. At the same time, Eika arrives, and although she tries to hide it, everyone notices she's a bit jealous. Eika's best friend, Ashita, helps Sajo out of this situation. First, she scolds him for being a player, and then she tells him that Renee is known for having been in love with a second-year guy who recently broke up with her. To learn more about this, Sajo goes to the second-year guy's classroom and finds him talking to his friends about the school's girls. The guy mentions that the most beautiful one is Eika. This response makes Sajo feel a bit guilty for Renee. Trying to help, Sajo is about to ask the girls for assistance, but at that moment, Renee tries to talk to him. Before she can do so, Ashita out of nowhere asks her why she broke up with her boyfriend.
Emotional damage!
After the emotional blow of that question, Renee says that things just didn't work out, and that's why they ended. Ashita is not satisfied with this answer and continues to press her. This time, she tells Renee that her ex-boyfriend is truly foolish for leaving her. However, Renee, just like Sajo, who hasn't gotten over his ex, asks her not to speak ill of her ex-boyfriend. He is perfect. Renee runs away, and Sajo follows her, but when he leaves the classroom, he collides with a girl we'll get to know later. Finally, Sajo manages to catch up with Renee. Now more calm, she asks him why he never talks about Eika when he's with her. Sajo tells her that from his own experience, he has discovered that it's a very bad idea to talk about one girl with another. Take note, guys. Now, Renee asks if he's still in love with Eika, and Sajo says something important. He feels that his heart has cooled after so many rejections, and it's time to move on. Even though he still has feelings for Eika, he knows that it's best for him to move forward. Renee tells him the real reason she broke up with her boyfriend. It's because he said he liked Eika. Although she knows he might not have said it seriously, it bothered her. Sajo tells her that maybe he didn't say it seriously, and we all make mistakes. She shouldn't get sad because someone rejected her once. For example, when he confessed to a girl, she rejected him and mocked him along with her boyfriend. However, thanks to that situation, he met Eika. She was the only person who offered him help at that moment, and since that day, he fell in love with her. Don't ask me how because I don't understand either, but this conversation helps Renee a lot in her situation, and thanks to that, she resolves her issues with her boyfriend. The girls ask Sajo if that makes him happy because Renee also had feelings for him. Sajo has matured a lot and tells them that she was vulnerable at that moment. If he took advantage of that, he wouldn't feel good about himself. Guys and girls, be like Sajo. Sajo's love life is about to improve because when his friends arrive, he tells them that he and Eika are going through a divorce, which makes her feel bad. Later, while admiring his reflection in the mirror, someone knocks on his door, and it turns out to be Eika. She enters, and Sajo tells her that he has the house to himself, but he doesn't mean that. He wants her to feel comfortable. She tells him that he's been acting strange lately. It has always been weird, but now he's super indifferent towards her. Did she stop liking him? Sajo's response is to ask her to go out with him, but she immediately says no. Sajo precisely stopped following her because he knows she doesn't like him, and it's a waste of time for both of them. She doesn't like him but the attention he used to give her. Before continuing the conversation, Sajo's sister from school arrives, and we don't know much about her except that she's quite popular in school for being in the student council. Minutes later, Sajo accompanies Eika to her house, but on the way, she stops and asks if he has anything else to tell her. However, it was a bad idea because what Sajo tells her is that he will stop following her from that day onwards. He hopes they can be more or less classmates. To finish, Sajo tells her that if she doesn't have any pretty friends to introduce him to.
What did he say?
I don't know what reaction Sajo expected, but what he achieves is that the girl runs away. As if that weren't enough, the next day, thanks to the magic of fate, They now have separate seats. On the one hand, this is even better for Sajo. But for Eika, it's a totally different story because Ashita tells her something she hadn't realized. Thanks to him always being with her, neither girls nor boys wanted to approach Eika. Now that he's practically left her alone, Sajo knows that what Ashita said is true, so he will try to solve that problem. But before that, he'll have to solve another issue. While walking, he encounters the student council president, Rin. She is there to scold him for scaring her good friend, the girl with whom Sajo collided that one time. As our friend doesn't want any more trouble, he apologizes to her for the accident. However, Rin was just joking, and she mentions that Yui reacted that way because she struggles to relate to boys, so it wasn't his fault. Knowing all this, Sajo isn't interested in the conversation, so he decides to leave. But before he does, Rin stops him and tells him she wants to talk to him alone. Once alone, she tells him that she knows he has no ill intentions toward her friend. And, of course, Sajo literally saw her only once. The real reason she wants to talk to him is that Rin has noticed he is really good at reading people. She asks him to help her with something. All her classmates are great at their tasks, but there are times when they feel sad, and she doesn't know what to do or say. Sajo advises her that as the president, the worst thing she can do is abandon her role attitude, as her classmates don't want her to sympathize with them but to guide them. The best thing she can do is pat them on the back and tell them everything is okay because she believes in them. After this great advice, Rin thanks him for spending time with her, but before Sajo leaves, she asks for his name. For some reason, our friend doesn't give her his own name but that of his friend. The next day, Sajo leaves his house with his sister as usual. His sister notices that Eika is going to school at the same time, so to facilitate her brother talking to the love of his life, she leaves him and tells him to go with Eika. However, this doesn't go as she expected because neither of them speaks to each other throughout the journey. The interesting part happens when they arrive at school because Ashita runs to tell Sajo that the president is waiting for him angrily in the classroom. The reason is that she found out he never gave his real name. But now that she knows it, she'll be waiting for him in the meeting room to talk to him. In the meeting room, Rin asks him why he didn't give his real name, and our friend gives his most sincere answer. He believes that if she remembers his name, it would be bad for him, but not for his friend. Rin understands this, so now she tells him the real reason they are there. Yui wants to apologize to him for her reaction, and thanks to knowing him, she believes she can improve her fear of men. To this, our friend simply wishes her luck. Upon leaving the room, he meets Ashita, who tells him to go see Eika. When Sajo enters the classroom, he sees that the girl is getting along much better with all her classmates, which makes him happy. However, he knows that even though he wants to be there with her, it's best to distance himself. Also, at that moment, his sister calls him because she wants him to help with some student council tasks. At first, our friend wants to refuse, but after his sister tells him that if he doesn't help, she'll reveal that he lies about his age to have a part-time job. Sajo accepts. He gets to work, and after finishing everything, everyone in the council is delighted with his work. However, his sister tells him that he still has more work. But this time, she promises to buy him a good magazine as a reward. You know what she's referring to. Meanwhile, Rin and Yu engage in typical student council activities from anime. While they walk, Yu confesses to Rin that she's a bit worried because she felt she might have upset Sajo in some way since he always looked at her with a disappointed expression. Applying the advice Sajo gave her, Rin pats her on the back and reassures her that everything will be fine. The next day, we see Eika entering the classroom and noticing Sajo's empty seat, but she pretends not to care. Seconds later, one of her classmates suggests that they all go to Eika's house to see her little sister. Ashita thinks it's a great idea, and when Sajo arrives, she asks if he's going. However, Sajo knows that's a bad idea, and it becomes clearer when Eika tells him she won't let her little sister get close to him. Later, everyone is ready to go to Eika's house, but Sajo just gathers his things and leaves the classroom. Eika notices and stops him, asking timidly if he won't really come to her house. Before he can answer, Rin arrives, apologizing for interrupting their conversation but needing to talk to Sajo alone. In the room, she thanks him because the advice he gave helped her friend a lot. However, another problem has arisen. Yu is sad because she thinks he understood her feelings. Rin approaches and asks Sajo for his honest opinion. He admits he's a bit disappointed because Yu didn't apologize to him for her own sake or to overcome her trauma. Instead, she grew tired of herself, and it reached a breaking point when she rejected Sajo's kindness. That's what bothers him a bit because Yu used their encounter as a springboard to improve her insecurity. With all this said, he withdraws. Days later, global warming has reached the anime too because the heat is unbearable. The upside is that he can see his beloved Eika in her summer uniform. In class, Ashita looks at all the photos she took when she went to Eika's house. In one of them, she notices that her friend seemed quite sad. She asks Sajo why he hasn't spoken to Eika yet, and he replies that he wants to keep his distance from her to not interfere with her new friendships. Also, if he gets closer, he won't be able to see her in her summer uniform.
You smart.
What neither of them realizes is that while they talk without paying attention, Eika is observing them. Later, in physical education class, one of his friends shows Sajo all the photos he took at Eika's house. While Sajo looks at them, he receives a message from his sister saying she doesn't need him that day. Sibling love. Minutes later, Sajo arrives at the classroom for lunch, but his friend is already waiting for him with a group of girls, among whom Arisa stands out. Not for being friendly, but quite the opposite, as she is the type of friend who, when you end a relationship, starts asking you everything that happened just to bother you. Sajo tries to avoid all the questions, but as he does so, Eika suddenly appears, looking far from happy. She takes Sajo's hand and leads him away to talk in private. Although she doesn't say any words, Sajo can't help but think of possible reasons why Eika is upset. In short, she is jealous. Upon seeing this, Sajo gets excited to know that his beloved Eika is jealous because of him. However, knowing that Eika won't admit it, he runs off after saying that. Later, while talking to Ashita about everything that has happened, something unexpected occurs for Sajo. The most handsome guy in the whole school, Hayato, comes to find him. Hayato takes him aside to talk, and the first thing he asks is what Sajo thinks of himself. Sajo responds that, in any case, he's just a commoner or, better said, an NPC in life. Hayato then changes the question and asks if his change in attitude is due to his relationship with Eika. Sajo doesn't want to answer that, and after a lot of back and forth, Hayato finally reveals the true reason for talking to him. Due to his sudden change, Hayato's sister has been sad these days, thinking that she had something to do with Sajo's breakup with Eika. She believes that she bothered him so much that Sajo decided to end things because of her. If that's not the case, Hayato asks him to please explain the truth to his sister. Sajo doesn't quite understand why his sister is sad, but in the end, they are family, so he must solve the problem. What he doesn't know is that Hayato had already set up the situation to make it happen. He told Sajo's sister to wait for him on the rooftop. As they walk to the location, Sajo asks Hayato if he has a reason to help his sister. The handsome guy tells him that being good-looking brought him many problems in the past, but his sister came at the right time to save him. So, he feels a debt he needs to repay. While they converse, Eika and Ashita see them and decide to follow them discreetly. Seconds later, Sajo arrives at the rooftop and sees his sister. She asks why he's there, but Sajo responds with another question. He asks her to mention 10 good things about herself. After thinking for a while, Kid can't even come up with 3 things. By the way, I apologize for not mentioning the girl's name earlier. Now, the protagonist changes the question and asks her to list 10 bad things about him, and this time, Kid mentions all 10 and even more. Sajo then tells her that, as he mentioned to Hayato, she shouldn't worry about his change in attitude because it's not a change. He just realized the things he shouldn't do. He chose to fall in love with Eika, and he chose to stop loving her. She has nothing to do with it. Although Sajo tells Kid not to worry, she continues to do so because he is her brother. She recounts a story about 2 people who loved each other, but one of them suddenly decided to distance themselves, leaving the other in a very bad situation. Sajo responds that if she thinks he's that weak, doesn't she trust her younger brother? The fact that she changes her attitude and becomes kinder worsens things because he feels that she pities him. So, the best thing she can do is continue treating him as she did before. With these words, Kid finally understands her brother's feelings, and as he had requested, she starts treating him like any older sister treats her younger brothers. However, as in real life, sometimes such treatment can be misinterpreted, and this time, it's Eika who does so, as the girls followed Sajo. Eika grabs Sajo's shirt and, very angry, tells him that he should treat her sister that way, show respect, and apologize to her. Instead of doing that, Sajo asks if she spied on him and followed him secretly to the rooftop. This time, Eika ends up looking like the toxic one in the relationship. Without knowing what to say, she runs off, leaving Sajo with the doubts he had before. While walking home, he reflects on Eika's feelings, but decides to stop thinking about it to be more at ease. Later, he passes by a store to buy something for his sister as an apology. When he gets home, he greets his mom and gives Kid the gift he bought. Initially, she tries to act tough, but deep down, she liked the present. Then, a friendly sibling battle begins because she didn't want to share her food with Sajo. In retaliation, he takes a photo, joking that his friends would pay a lot for something like that.
Sensational.
But this earns him a good beating from his sister. Now, let's switch to the girls. They are talking about the time everyone went to Eika's house. Eika tells Ashita that she felt a bit sad seeing her little sister getting along with everyone while, despite being older, she struggles to socialize. However, Ashita says that wasn't the real reason she was sad, it was because Sajo hadn't arrived yet. Even though she doesn't want to admit it, she feels something for him. While it was annoying that he was always behind her, now that she doesn't have that attention and love, she feels bad. However, that distance doesn't have to last forever, and this time, she'll have to take the initiative and start talking to Sajo. Sometimes, I feel like watching anime is more helpful than going to a psychologist, but go to a psychologist. Taking note of her advice, the next day, Eika is with Ashita, waiting for Sajo. However, when the protagonist arrives, he treats Eika in a too formal manner, making her even sadder. Ashita lets him know that he's making a mistake. During breakfast, Sajo leaves his classroom confidently, adopting a macho sigma attitude with look-maxing. Eika wants to approach him and suggests they eat together, but, as in previous times, she lacks the courage, allowing Sajo to leave. Being a good introvert, our friend finds a place to eat alone. However, he doesn't notice that Rin is nearby, along with Yu and another girl. This time, with a smile, Yu invites him to eat with them, and Sajo knows that if he doesn't accept, Rin will get angry with him, so he has no other choice. While they eat, Sajo is surprised because now Yu is the one talking more and no longer afraid to interact with guys. However, this girl named Aya doesn't like the protagonist much because he asked Yu if she had a boyfriend. After understanding that Sajo has no bad intentions, Aya ends up getting along with him. Besides, Yu is not the waifu of this anime. Later, in private, Rin thanks our friend for helping Yu. Thanks to him, she realized that not all guys are bad, and now she's much more outgoing with everyone. She also thanks him for the advice that greatly improved her relationships with her friends. Now, in the classroom, Yu's brother, Sasaki, is constantly receiving messages from his sister due to her change in behavior after interacting with Sajo. They start talking about their sisters, but the conversation takes a turn when Sasaki asks about Sajo's relationship with Eika. Once again, Sajo tells him what we already know, but this time Sasaki confesses that he really likes Eika and asks Sajo if it would bother him to go for her. Our friend responds that it's fine, even though deep down, this makes him jealous as he watches the girl he likes possibly connecting with someone else. After classes, Sajo observes as Ashita and Eika head home with Sasaki. All he can do is watch. However, things change when Eika approaches him under the pretext of having forgotten something. Since it's late, Sajo offers to accompany her home, and finally, the girl gathers the courage to start a conversation. Eika asks where he plans to eat, mentioning that he used to eat with Ashita and her, but now he goes alone. Sajo says he'll eat somewhere around, but in reality, he ends up having lunch with Rin and other girls, making Eika jealous. She doesn't give up and asks Sajo if he wants to eat with her. Our friend loves the idea, but he also thinks that rejoining Eika might ruin the friendship she's formed. Reluctantly, he tells her that, for the moment, he prefers to eat alone. Back at home, Eika tells Sajo that he shouldn't neglect himself, noticing that he hasn't styled his hair. She recommends a hair dye, and when he asks which color she'd prefer, she suggests a dark one but says a light one would be perfect. Not wanting to distance himself from her, Sajo goes to the supermarket to buy dark hair dye. With his sister's help, he undergoes a makeover. Now, the problem is his grades. He used to be 25th in the whole school, but now he has dropped to 65th. Sajo believes it's because he used to maintain good grades and behave well to be the perfect man for Eika. However, Ashita shows him that she has climbed to 23rd place, and when Sajo checks the rankings, he sees that Eika is now second. He thinks that her improvement is due to him no longer being with her. Sasaki arrives, boasting that he got a better rank, and instead of feeling sad, this becomes the spark Sajo needs to regain his original position. Days later, Sajo notices that Eika is making more friends, but even when she's with everyone, her gaze is always on him. However, he is determined not to get closer. At lunchtime, Sajo goes out to eat, but as he leaves the classroom, he finds some girls spying on his ex-waifu, wondering what he plans to do to her. They get scared when he confronts them, and he teases the blonde girl a bit before they leave, commenting that the people from the west side are strange. On the same day, it starts raining, and Eika encounters Sajo. He greets her and leaves her in the rain, but when he sees a truck approaching that would splash water on Eika, he intervenes to save her, ending up soaked and catching a severe cold a few days later. Ashita asks if he's really okay, to which he responds that it's just not his day. Moments later, Eika arrives offering him a handkerchief. He takes it, but his cold is so severe that he ends up fainting, though his friends think he just fell asleep. When Sajo wakes up, he tries to pretend he's fine, and the teacher scolds him for sleeping in class, completely unaware of his deteriorating health. The situation worsens when Sajo attempts to go to the bathroom but faints again due to lack of strength. This triggers a memory for Sajo, recalling how he used to fake his emotions to fit in until he fell in the cafeteria, and everyone, except Eika, mocked him. The nurse informs him that his temperature is quite high, surprising Sajo since he felt fine in the morning. But the doctor explains it's because his body is exhausted. Meanwhile, Eika is genuinely concerned about him. After classes, she decides to visit him along with Ashita. Upon arrival, they find Sajo staring into space. Eika asks if he's okay, but Sajo only apologizes for causing them trouble. Suddenly, he experiences a headache, and Eika tries to help, but he stops her, not wanting to infect her with his cold. He asks both girls to leave, and they understand, but when they exit, they encounter Keed and Rin. Deciding to re-enter, Keed, initially concerned for her brother, reverts to her tough attitude once she sees he's fine again. Eika feels jealous because Sajo touched his sister and Rin but not her. The next day, Sajo stays home to recover, surprised to see his friends visiting him. Inside, Ashita mentions it was Eika's idea, and Eika admits feeling a bit guilty because it was for her that he ended up like this. Once they confirm he's okay, they decide to leave. The following day, Sajo encounters the blonde girl, Mary, who expresses a desire to talk to Eika. After meeting Eika, Mary praises her as a kind and well-behaved girl and asks for help with her presidential campaign, confident that Eika's involvement will secure her victory. Sajo finds this idea objectionable, suggesting that using Eika in the campaign will overshadow Mary because Eika is much prettier.
Emotional damage.
Mary becomes upset and starts harboring resentment toward Eika. To avoid a bad impression, Mary decides to leave. Ashita tells Sajo that what he said was out of this world. But Eika must be tired of being called pretty. However, Eika stops him from calling her that, and despite her initial resistance, she can't hide her liking for the nickname, so she runs away. A few days later, as Sajo looks for a place to eat, he sees Yuyu calling him to join them for lunch. Sajo knows they called him because they want to ask him something, so he asks if they need anything. Rin then asks if he has considered joining the student council, something Sajo immediately rejects. Rin explains that she will soon step down as president, and so far, she hasn't been able to find any first or second year students willing to participate seriously. The girls who have applied just want to have fun and won't take the position seriously. She thought Sajo would be the right person to become the new president, leaving Sajo thinking because no one had ever needed him before. Suddenly, Yu takes his hands and tells him that she counts on him. Aya appears to get angry at this, prompting Sajo to quickly retract his hands. However, the girls become even angrier. Uncertain of what to do or say, Sajo ends up taking Yuyu's hands again. This action seems to infuriate the girls even more. In situations like these, Sajo says there's no way he can stay away from the committee. A few minutes later, while walking through the school, he encounters Eika. She mentions that his hair is quite messy, so she approaches him and starts combing it, making Sajo nervous. Eika also blushes when she realizes how close they are. Later, there's a council meeting where Sajo sees the only other guy in the committee. They are informed about a guided tour for new students. Back in the classroom, the teacher announces that those not involved in any committee will help with the tour. Eika and Sajo are selected to help. They decide the roles through rock, paper, scissors, and Sajo wins, meaning he won't have to do anything. However, Eika will have to help with the other guy. Sasaki takes advantage of the situation, implying that he will take the guy's place to spend more time with Eika. Everyone approves, thinking they make a good couple. After class, Sasaki looks at Sajo as if telling him that he won. But Sajo pays no attention and leaves. Meanwhile, Eika is with Ashita, expressing her desire to go to the beach or a festival during the upcoming vacation. She suggests inviting someone else, like Sajo, which Eika neither accepts nor denies. On the other hand, Sajo is working at his part-time job. While organizing some things, he notices some kids bothering a boy. Without hesitation, he approaches and handles the situation so calmly that the other kids just leave. Sajo then asks the boy, Kauta, if he's okay and learns his name. After calling Kauta's house, Fuka, Kauta's older sister, arrives to pick him up. Sajo is amazed by Fuka's beauty, who appears like a university student. Sajo explains the situation to Fuka and advises Kauta to be careful while walking. Fuka tells Sajo he was lucky to meet such a good guy. The next day, Sajo can't get Fuka out of his head, and when his sister arrives, he casually asks him to make her a coffee, something Sajo does without any problems. Keed mentions again the invitation Rin extended to Sajo to join the committee, but what she's truly interested in is understanding the nature of his relationship with Rin. Sajo tells her that he sees Rin as if she were an older sister, nothing more. Regarding the committee invitation, he declines it because it would imply too many responsibilities. Keed says that's okay but advises him to think it over a bit more. Later that day, while Sajo is working, the university girl arrives. She mentions that she lives nearby and is glad to have met him. Sajo can't help but feel nervous and tells her he's more than delighted to have met her. More composed now, Fuka mentions that she attends an all-girls school, which doesn't surprise Sajo because he feels she exudes an aura of maturity and purity, making the girl blush. She thanks him for what he did for her and her brother and shares that due to strict parents, she hasn't interacted with many boys. Meeting him has been an enlightening experience. Unfortunately, their conversation is interrupted by a customer. Before leaving, Fuka gives Sajo a gift and asks if she can come by to talk with him again, to which he enthusiastically agrees. Opening the gift, he discovers it's a somewhat childish handkerchief, but he appreciates the gesture. Things seem to be going wonderfully because, after a few days, Sajo goes out with Fuka. When the wind blows, Sajo sees a bracelet that the girl is wearing, while she notices that he is wearing the scarf she had given him, which makes her happy. She tells him that she chose it thinking about the impression he had made on her. Sajo is unsure whether that's a good or bad thing. But let's go back in time to understand how we got here. One day, while Sajo was working, Fuja arrived as she was going to a library nearby. However, we later find out that Fuja often visits our friend. When Sajo sees her, he admires a bracelet she is wearing. Fuja tells him that she made it at a place near the beach recommended by her friends. Sajo is very interested in this because he thinks handicrafts are quite elegant. He asks Fuja for the name of the store, and she provides it. But when Sajo starts looking for it, the girl gets close to him, making our friend nervous. The real reason Sajo is interested in the bracelet is that Eika's birthday is approaching, and he doesn't know what to give her. Something handmade would be a good option. While our friend is thinking, Fuja can't help but get closer with an enamored look. To avoid tension, Sajo invites her for that day, bringing us to the present. As they walk, Sajo thinks that this outing doesn't mean much to Fuja. However, she suddenly freezes, and Sajo asks if she feels unwell. She confesses feeling a bit embarrassed because she rarely wears clothes like the ones she has on that day, only dressing up when she comes to see him at the store. Sajo reassures her, complimenting her appearance and asking about her usual clothing, to which she replies with her high school uniform. This boggles Sajo's mind as he can't imagine Fuja in such a small uniform. We switch scenes, and Eika and her little sister go to the beach with Ashita, the same beach where our friend is. Just as the girls pass by the protagonist's house, Ashita suggests he join them so that Sajo can see Eika in a swimsuit. Ashita is the friend everyone should have. When they call Sajo, he obviously declines, making them think he's at work. However, our friend was actually lost admiring Fuja's beauty. The girl thinks he's looking for girls in bikinis, which he quickly denies, mentioning that he hasn't been to the beach in years. Fuja says she goes to the beach often, but it has become expensive because she has to buy a new swimsuit every time. Our friend doesn't understand why, but then he realizes. Shortly after, Sajo asks for the address of the store, and Fuja points it out. When they are about to go again, she gets close to him, causing Sajo's mind to start collapsing. Finally, when they reach the store, Sajo feels a bit nervous because he doesn't know how things will turn out, especially when he realizes he's the only guy in the place. At that moment, the owner arrives and asks Fuja if Sajo is her boyfriend, making the girl blush. Sajo quickly clarifies that they are just friends. Then the owner asks if they know what they want to do. Fuja says that the last time she was there, she made a bracelet, so this time she will go for a necklace. However, Sajo doesn't know what to make because he doesn't know what Eika might like. Although the shop owner helps him a lot and asks if it's a gift, Sajo confirms it's for a girl. The two girls then give him recommendations on what he could make. I know this part is a bit dull, but I can't skip it. Minutes later, Sajo has all the materials in front of him, and at that moment, Fuja asks if the gift is for his girlfriend. Sajo tells her that she's not his girlfriend. In fact, she has rejected him, something that Fuja finds strange. She wonders why he would give a gift to someone who rejected him. Sajo explains that being in love with her helped him become a better person, so it's a kind of gratitude for that. Fuja finds it super sweet and is sure that the girl will love whatever he gives her. Sajo understands from these words that it's not about the gift itself but the intention behind it. For example, you could give me a subscription, and it would make me super happy. Returning to Eika, the girls are having a great time, but they are drawn to a craft store, exactly the same one where Sajo is with Fuja. Ashita suggests making something to remember the day. Meanwhile, our friend continues his mission but notices something that catches his attention, a picture of Fuja on the wall, wearing a high school uniform. Sajo asks about the photo, and Fuja explains that she took it a few days ago with her father. Slightly worried, Sajo asks if it's cosplay or something, and she jokes, saying that's the uniform she wears for studying. In other words, Fuja is not a university student but a high school student, younger than Sajo. Our friend doesn't understand what's going on, so he unloads all his confusion on a seashell, while Fuja cheers him up. When he sees her, he can't help but think that high school girls are a bit strange these days. After this, Fuja asks Sajo if he has given up on Eika's love, and he confirms it because more than 2 years have passed, and he was always rejected. He has decided to move on for both his and Eika's sake, something she will only understand when she falls in love. This excites Fuja, and she asks what love is. Sajo tells her it has been suffering for him, and love is usually suffering for someone else but also feeling immense joy for that person. However, when she falls in love, it won't be as bad for her as it was for him, so she should be at ease. After these wise words, the girls arrive at the store. But it's different from what everyone thought because Sajo and Fuja had already left. However, when the girls leave the store, Eika manages to see Sajo with Fuja, but since she only saw him from behind, she wasn't sure if it was really him. Now, Sajo and the girl walk to catch the bus because Fuja has a scheduled arrival time, and Sajo doesn't want her to get scolded. While on the bus, she tells him that when she enters high school, she will fall in love with someone. This makes Sajo laugh, not in a mocking way, but because he knows she will have many admirers. Moments later, due to tiredness, the girl falls asleep on Sajo's shoulder. To make things more interesting, Ashita sends him a photo of Eika in a swimsuit. The next day, Sajo is at work, but he will soon have to quit because he's going back to school. He asks the owner what he will do, and the owner says he's already hiring someone else. Sajo will be in charge of training the new employee, who turns out to be a classmate named Ikanos. Tell me if this girl doesn't look a lot like Tauka. Her story is interesting, but let's continue with Eika and Sajo's love story, so I'll speed up this part. Ready? Ikanos is incredibly shy, to the point that her voice is barely audible when she talks to Sajo. Besides, she gets super nervous when a customer arrives, something Sajo notices. Thinking that she'll always need someone with her if she stays in the job, Sajo talks to the owner about it. The owner says he'll think about it. Later, Sajo seeks advice from the girls, and they tell him he did everything he could, so he shouldn't blame himself. The next day, Sajo notices that Ikanos has improved a lot. The girl spent the whole night watching YouTube videos on how to deal with customers. Day by day, Ikenos improves at work, and their relationship gets better. The girl starts confiding in Sajo about her family. Ikenos reveals the true reason she's working. She wants to distance herself from her brother and become more independent. They were inseparable, but everything changed when her brother got a girlfriend, and she started interfering in their relationship. This bothers her a lot, and she wants to tell them but hasn't found the courage. This changes when her brother surprises her at work one day because he has noticed her distancing. With Sajo's help, they manage to resolve the issue. Ikenos just wants her place. She doesn't want to intrude in their relationship, only wants them to know she's there. Her brother understands, and even his girlfriend wants to be friends with Ikenos. This concludes this arc of the anime. The holidays are over, and there's a guided course for new students. Sajo's sister has been working hard and thinks he should help. Despite his lack of interest, he ends up obeying his sister. She gives him Rin's number. He calls her, but surprisingly, she rejects him because she doesn't want him to overexert himself. Keat insists, and Sajo tells Rin that he wants to help her as long as he can be by her side. This makes the girl blush for the first time, and the plan works because the next day, Rin acts more shy around the protagonist. Although, after some time, the girl gets closer to him. Meanwhile, Eika is with the guy who is interested in her. He suggests going to watch him play soccer, but she politely declines, explaining that she has to take care of her little sister. In that moment, Eika recalls all the times she had to say no to outings proposed by her peers, realizing her life was boring until she met Sajo. She remembers the day he fell in front of her, and after that, Sajo confessed for the first time. Even though she rejected him, contrary to her expectations, Sajo persisted and became a part of her life. However, when Sajo disappeared due to exam preparations, she felt the change in his attitude. Eika admits that she misses him and wants to be with him. She confesses that she likes Sajo, and our friend wins. Eika spots Sajo and runs after him. As she runs, she remembers all the times Sajo confessed to her. When they finally meet, Sajo speaks calmly, while Eika excitedly tells him she ran through the entire school when she saw him, surprising Sajo. Eika questions why Sajo hasn't called her lately, stating she's always waiting for his call. When Sajo mentions working with Ikenos, Eika becomes super jealous. Then, she remembers Sajo has a photo of her in a swimsuit and asks for his phone to delete it. Sajo takes her arm, and they end up standing close, but the moment is interrupted by Ashida. After a brief conversation, Ashida asks Sajo if he went to the beach. Sajo almost mentions Fuja but stops. Eika arrives, and Sajo explains he was forced by his sister to help with the tour day preparations. The day of the tour arrives. The president gives a speech and impresses the new girls. The groups are assigned, and by script convenience, Fuja ends up with Eika. The junior high girls ask if Eika and Sasaki are a couple, but she quickly denies it, leaving Sasaki in the friend zone. The tour goes well, and the girls get along with Eika and Sasaki. Fuja talks about Sajo with her friends, who tell her she's deeply in love with him. Eika, busy talking to Sasaki, doesn't hear this. However, the situation takes a turn when Eika says goodbye to Fuja. Sajo passes by, and when Eika is about to call him, Fuja does it first. Our friend sees her running towards him, with Eika in the background, and senses trouble. The friends of Fuja finally meet the guy she often talks about. They tell Sajo that he changed their friend's life, but he should still take care of her because she's a bit clueless. Fuja assures them that she and Sajo have an excellent relationship. He treats her well, is kind, understanding, and always listens. To prevent the situation from escalating, Sajo interrupts her, and embarrassed, Fuja leaves with her friends. However, Eika overhears everything. Sajo senses something sinister, and so does Sasaki, prompting them to run away. Eika grabs Sajo and tells Ashida everything that happened. Ashida teases Sajo, suggesting that he spent the whole summer flirting with girls, making Eika jealous. Despite this, I think she shouldn't feel bad because, in the end, she always rejected Sajo. Later, Ashida tells her friend that if she continues acting the way she has been, she will push Sajo away. To prevent that from happening, the next day she goes to his workplace. Upon arriving, Eika encounters Ikenos, and to her surprise, finds the girl really pleasant. She tries to talk to Sajo, but he doesn't engage much in the conversation. In that moment, Eika remembers Ashida's words, so she insists on keeping the conversation going. Using her last card, she tells him that he should come to visit her at her home. Sajo explains he hasn't done so because she imposed too many restrictions. Eika clarifies that it's because she wants him to be a good older brother for her sister, meaning she wants him to be her boyfriend and, at the same time, her sister's older brother, typical anime dynamics. Sajo agrees to go, and the next day, he has a great time with everyone, especially Eika's sister who sees him as a toy. Things improve when Eika's mom arrives and forms a positive impression of Sajo, asking him to visit again. Sajo has won over the mother-in-law. When the guys are walking, Ashida leaves them alone, and now Eika tells Sajo that school has become super fun, much more enjoyable than before. Sajo attributes it to himself, but Eika reveals that even though he was annoying, his presence helped her a lot, especially when her family was going through a tough time. Now she is much happier and has more friends, but she feels like something is missing, or more precisely, someone. Sajo tells her that he distanced himself for his own good. but Eika doesn't want it to be that way. She wants him to be alone with her. In true anime love fashion, fireworks light up the sky. Eika gets close to the protagonist, but like a classic tsundere, she distances herself. Not for long, though, because as they walk, both want to hold hands. At first, there's hesitation, but love conquers all, and finally, after 12 episodes, the couple takes the first step. The next morning, Sajo leaves his house for school, and there's Eika waiting for him. This time, the two are together, and my friend, this is the end. I don't know whether to feel good or bad, but well, it's an ending. If you made it this far, comment Riz, and I'll give you a big greeting. Plus, your crush will notice you. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe and give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. My name is Alex, and I wish you a fantastic day, afternoon, or night. Bye bye.